welcome to Kajea's channel. Being a bookkeeper is like being a detective. Bakit? Kasi you have to piece together all the information from different sources. So, you have to gather those information and make sure all the information na nag-gather mo fits together. And you can only do this kung naiintindihan mo yung client's business model. So ngayon, pag-uusapan natin, paano ba natin mas maiintindihan yung business industry ng client natin as a bookkeeper. Kapag alam mo kasi kung paano nag-work yung isang industry, ano ba yung mga transactions na pwedeng makita mo sa books nila, mas mapapadali yung trabaho mo as a bookkeeper. So kung interested ka sa topic na to, please keep on watching until the end. Do not skip para wala kang mamiss na tips and tricks na i-share ko throughout the video. So without further ado, let's get started! Kung bago ka lang sa channel na to, I'm Kajea, virtual assistant, executive assistant, bookkeeper, accountant. So kahit anong work, pinapasok ko, basta't online, kasi online work is amazing! Sa channel na to, dinidiscuss natin more on online work, tips and tricks, and mga success stories. So kung interested ka sa mga topic na yon, please consider subscribing and don't forget to hit the notification bell para wala kang ma-miss na video na ina-upload ni Kajea every single week. Guys, as a bookkeeper, it is really important to understand the business model ng client mo or ang business industry ng client mo ay naiintindihan mo. You can provide quality services as a bookkeeper. Kapag sinabi nating understanding yung business model nila, you need to understand kung paano ba sila nag-ooperate on a daily basis. You also need to understand kung ano yung mga products and services or ano yung types ng services and products na in-offer nila as a company. You also need to know yung mga challenges na nafe-face nila from the day-to-day operation para as a bookkeeper, you can tailor kung anong service ba yung nararapat sa kanila. And of course, para din ma-address mo any issues na related sa bookkeeping quickly and effectively. If you understand yung business model ng client mo, this will not only build trust between you and your client, but of course, you can ensure sa client mo that you are providing quality services sa kanila. As a virtual bookkeeper, you are your client's financial confidant. So, lahat ng secret nila about finances ay alam mo, okay? So, dahil ikaw nga ang virtual bookkeeper nila or freelance bookkeeper, they trust you with their numbers and of course, they expect you to understand the ins and outs of their transactions of their business, di ba? But the question is, how can you make sure that you have the full picture ng business nila? So, you can only do this if you know, syempre, kung ano ba or if you understand ba yung buong business model ng client mo. So, how are we going to understand? Ano-ano ba yung mga kailangan natin gawin to make sure that we understand yung business model ng client natin? So, number one dyan is you have to educate yourself dun sa business industry ng client mo. If you educate yourself dun sa business model ng client mo, ito na yung key sa pag-provide ng effective services. So now, how are you going to educate yourself sa business model ng client mo? So number one, you have to read up on the industry itself. So ano ba ang mga common like product or services na nebenta sa ganitong industry? Ano ba yung mga specific terms na madalas ginagamit sa ganitong industry? Ano ba yung mga trends? Ano ba yung mga regulations? So, anything about the company. So, dapat alam mo yan. So, kung kunwari, yung client mo ay nasa e-commerce industry. E-commerce, syempre, iba-ibang product yan. Pero may mga specific terms na ginagamit yung mga e-commerce client natin. So, kapag e-commerce client, madalas maririnig mo SQ. So, SKU, yun yung mga code sa mga product nila. Sa Amazon, sa Shopify. So, bawat product nila ay may kanya-kanyang SQ. So, yung SQ na yun yung mag-refer kung ano mismong product yung tinutukoy na yun. Okay? Kailangan familiar tayo sa mga ganong terms. So, ngayon, Kajea, nagbasa na ako tungkol sa industry, nag-research na ako, pero may mga question pa ako. So, number 2, para mas maintindihan mo yung business model ng client mo, you have to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Why? Kasi, when you're asking question when something doesn't make sense, it helps you fill in the blanks or the gaps between you and your clients. Kasi for example, bagong bookkeeper ka, so wala ka pang experience with the other industry. So ngayon, naguguluhan ka kung ano ba ang ginagawa sa industry na to, paano ba sila nag-ooperate, nag-research ka na, pero parang may kulang pa. So ngayon, magtanong ka ng questions sa client mo. Anything about the industry na gusto mong malaman sa client mo, you can ask your client. Kasi if you are asking question, nakikita ng client mo na you are really interested doon sa job and you are really eager to learn. And of course, if you are asking question, it shows that you are care about getting it right ba? And you are investing to provide quality services. So, asking question doesn't mean na wala kang alam or hindi ka karapat-dapat for that position. You are asking question kasi you want to make it right. You don't want to do it kasi lang, gusto mo lang, na hindi mo naman naintindihan. When we are doing something, it is always important to remember na hindi lang natin siya ginagawa kasi kailangan. Kailangan, ginagawa natin siya dahil naiintindihan natin siya and we are trying to provide good and quality services. Another way para mas maintindihan natin yung business model ng client natin is by staying organized. So, ano yung ibig sabihin dito ni Kajea? For example, this is, kung kanina yung example ko ay para sa mga newbies, sa mga walang experience, ito naman is para sa may mga experience. For example, mayroon ka ng mga client before na nasa same industry. What you can do to make you understand yung business industry ng client mo is to list all the transactions na sa tingin mo ay recurring. List all the transactions na paulit-ulit mo nakikita sa bank. It can be payment sa subscriptions, bank charges, or mga PayPal transactions na madalas nakikita mo from one company to another. For example, currency conversion. Sa PayPal, madalas yan. So, what does it mean kapag nakita ka ng currency conversion na transaction? Ano ang gagawin mo? Kailangan mo ba siyang i-transfer? Kailangan mo siyang i-record as expense, as income? So, kailangan kung ano yung natutunan natin from one company, ilista natin yan, and for sure, same company, especially kung recurring or madalas nangyayari or meron silang same account, makikita mo yung transaction na yan. So, para hindi mo naguluhin si client mo ng paulit-ulit, you can refer back dun sa mga previous transactions from other company na related naman. Okay? Don't pretend na alam mo kung hindi naman talaga. Do not add a transaction sa kahit anong client mo if you are not 100% sure. Kasi if you're going to record it nang hindi ka 100% sure dun sa nire-record mo, it will mess up yung mismong report and you will be providing hindi na accurate na report. Okay? And for you to be able to understand din yung business industry ng client mo, you have to take notes. Why? During the meeting, of course, especially sa mga boarding call with your client, mayroong mga binabanggit dyan yung mga client natin na sobrang importante. So, if we're not going to take notes, minsan, nawawala na yan at makakalimutan na natin. So, ang mas maganda, every time na may meeting kayo, you can record the meeting or you can take notes. Okay? Then, sa notes na yon, while you are doing the actual bookkeeping na, may mababalik kang notes. Okay. Sa bank na to, ito yung mga expenses na karaniwang nangyayari. Ito yung mga expenses na binabayaran ko sa credit card na to. Sa payment gateways na to, ito yung mga transaction na madalas mong makikita. So, if you're going to listen to your client and take notes during the meeting, very useful yun and helpful for you as a bookkeeper sa pagre-reconcile ng client mo. Okay? So, you really have to understand paano ba nag-work yung business. Once meron ka ng idea or you really understand na kung paano ba nag-ooperate yung isang business, there are two main things na kailangan mong tandaan. Number 1 is yung kanilang revenue and number 2 is yung kanilang expenses. When there is revenue, there is expenses din. When there is expenses, syempre, meron din yung revenue. So, saan ba tayo kukuha ng pera pambayad sa mga expenses natin kung wala tayong revenue, okay? So, number 1, pagdating sa revenue, you have to know saan ba galing yung kanilang mga revenue. For example, yung client mo ay nasa e-commerce business. Lahat ba ng income niya ay talagang e-commerce lang? There are clients kasi na nasa e-commerce industry, pero meron pang other source of income. For example, may affiliate marketing silang income, or kaya naman referral income. So, marami, okay? So, ngayon, kailangan, during the onboarding call ng client mo, you have to ask your client, for example, Amazon income mo, is there any other income na makikita ko sa bank account mo, or sa bank transaction mo? And then, kapag sinabi ni client mo na, oo, meron ako sa ganito, you have to take note. And then, syempre, during the reconciliation, very useful yan. Okay? Now, alam mo na kung saan nanggagaling yung revenue. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin yung expenses. Okay? Ngayon, kailangan mo rin maintindihan. Sa bank na to, ito yung mga expenses ko. Ito yung mga software na binabayaran ko. Ito yung list ng mga virtual assistant na binabayaran ko. Ito yung list ng employees na meron ako. So, mahalagang malaman yung mga klase ng information na yun, okay? Kasi it will make our life easier during the reconciliation process. Aside from knowing kung saan napupunta yung money, it is also important as a bookkeeper na you know kung aling expense ba ang necessary lang to operate or to run the business. For example, nasa e-commerce industry ang client mo. May nakita kang mga expenses like Facebook ads. Is Facebook ads necessary to run the business? So, syempre yes. So, okay lang na makikita natin siya dun sa mismong PL ni client mo. Pero for example, merong 5 VA. For example, 5 VA si client mo. Your client is paying $500 for each VA. For example lang ha. And kung makikita mo dun sa mga time nila, or dun sa invoices na sinasend nila, hindi naman nila nakukomplete yung 8 hours a day. What can you do as a bookkeeper to maximize yung kanilang oras? Okay? So, ngayon, pwede mong inform si client mo na, na-notice mo na dun sa 5 BA mo, hindi naman nila nagagamit ng full yung oras nila. So, we have to maximize yung mga kayang gawin ng mga VA na yon. If one VA can do the task, yung isang VA, i-combine, and then if this VA can do other things, ibigay sa kanya. Para lang yung pera na binabayad ng client mo dun sa mga VA ay hindi rin naman na sasayang, okay? Another example, software. Kita mo, si client mo na nagbayad siya sa Link My Books and isang A2X. And na-realize mo, A2X and Link My Books ay parehas lang. Like, parehas na software related sa e-commerce, same function, yun nga lang, magkaibang software. So, parehas binabayaran ng client mo. Ang tanong, ginagamit niya ba parehas yung software na yon? Useful ba yon para sa client mo to operate the business? Kung ang sagot ay yes, alin sa dalawa doon ang i-retain? Alin ang i-stop yung subscription? So, kailangan mong maintindihan sa lahat ng expenses na nandun sa PL report ng client mo, alin ba doon yung necessary lang to run the business. If it is not necessary, you can discuss sa client mo na, this software is not necessary to run the business. We can stop paying dun sa subscription na to. And then, syempre, once you do that, malilasan na yung expenses compared sa nakaraang PL niya. Okay? So, yun yung dapat mong tandaan as a bookkeeper. So, you have to understand your client business industry. Kailangan mong intindihin how they operate, saan nagagaling ang income, and ano rin yung mga expenses na nakaka-affect doon sa net profit ng ating client. Okay? So, lagi nyo tatandaan, if you understand the client business industry, then it will be easier for you as a bookkeeper to process yung kanilang accounts and mas makakapag-provide ka ng quality report. So, sana marami kayong natutunan sa video na to. And if you want more video like this, just let me know sa comment section. And Kajea will try to create a video about sa topic na yan. As long as kaya ni Kajea. And yeah, that's all for today. And I'll see you on my next video. Bye!